Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mindwaves Talk once again. And today we are having with us Soumya Reddy from Hyderabad. She's a psychologist and she's working in the field of mental and since last 7 years, right, Soumya?
Yes.
Okay, so a big welcome to you to this show, Mindwaves Talk. And yes, first tell us about yourself. At present, what are you doing?
Thank you for having me on this show.
Welcome, welcome.
But yeah, at present, I have my own small online session company now, Sattva Counseling and Remedials.
Okay.
So previously, I used to work as a school counselor and also did freelancing work in the field of mental health for women and children. Now I have founded my own, and it's online now due to pandemic. Okay, I do take up the cases of all kind of mental health issues. Counseling and therapy is being offered
Okay.
for all children, and remedials also for children with learning disabilities and special children.
Okay, that's wonderful. So today we are going to, as I told you, that today's topic will be teenagers. They face the different kind of problems. We also know because we have also gone through that time in our lives also. So everybody knows that. This time is full of emotions and, flood of emotions and mood swings. So as a parent, especially if you're having a teenage kid at your home and he or she is going through that kind of problems. So as a parent, how to deal with that, how to make them understand that as a parent also, we can also understand their problems. It's not something only for them. So please tell about that.
See, teenagers, we typically use the word teenagers for children of ages 13 to 19.
Yeah.
Okay, which is between childhood and early adulthood.
Yeah.
With teenagers, it is that we don't treat them as children and neither as adults. So they are in between and they themselves go through a lot of changes physically, emotionally, and hormonal changes also in the body, which is like they don't consider them as children and neither as adults. But in certain areas, they feel that they are children. In certain areas, they feel when we object them from going out or having parties or something, they feel they are as adults. And if we give them more to study or more hard work to do, they consider themselves as children. So these kind of issues cause a lot of emotional ups and downs and overwhelming emotional reactions in the children. Okay, so we have to deal with the parents, and for the major suggestion for the parents also is to understand what's causing the emotional stress, what's causing the mood swings. If children are having that, what could that be? There could be social pressure, there could be academic pressure, there could be bullying going on in the school, there could be poor performance, there could be body image issues, or could be simple as a fight with their best friend, or some comment made by a teacher, or by a neighbor, or by a friend, or by the parent themselves. We parents do also pass on random comments, but they do not consider it as a big thing. But for children of these ages, they do grasp all the things and take it emotionally also.
Yeah.
So these are the issues. What are the issues? The parents could sit down, talk to the child, ask the child what they're going through. First thing is be present with the child. Be present, discuss it with them, what is going on, and not to pass judgments, not to be judgmental if they are talking about any school issue. If it is like a fight with a friend, not being judgmental that you always fight with this, you always fight with a friend. No, no wonder you have no friends because you behave this way. When they tell the issue randomly, after some time you listen at that time, but after some time if you make comments like, no wonder your friends are fighting with you because you behave this way, no wonder your teacher said these things because you don't study. When we pass on those comments, next time the child wouldn't share anything. If anything serious also is going on with them, they would hesitate to share. So don't be judgmental. Do not give advice to the children unless they ask for it. Listen, be there, be like a friend. Guide them if they need help. Advising and guiding is different, right? You do this, giving suggestions, guiding them that why don't you try this way? These both are two different things. Do it. And if the child is going through a lot of emotional ups and downs, some kind of outlet is also important, like sending them for art activities, sending them for sports, hobbies, having all these, or them having some time with their friends or going on a smaller vacation. These kind of things also would be like an outlet for the children.
Okay.
These are the few.
Yeah. So if a child is not, it's very, he or she is very introvert, is he's not much comfortable with expressing him or herself, then how to deal with that kind of kid in this situation when he or she is not coming out themselves, that okay, they are going through these kind of situations. So how to deal with this kind of kids?
See, with introverts, we should know what's causing it. Most often, some children are introverts when they are young. Also, it could be the socio-cultural environment surrounding them. Okay, it could be something happening at home or in the school that they are not allowed to express too much. Why do we feel introverted is because we are keeping all our emotions and thoughts to ourselves. We always see that introverts are good with certain kind of people whom they feel comfortable with. So we have to realize what's going on with the child, and how is it that that would make them comfortable to talk to. What are the techniques to be okay? And mostly they do talk with the parents, though they are introverts. We could help them make friends, help them, like, to have friends. Usually some kind of parents, we do suggest that if they are unable to make friends, you introduce, or like, mom's group or something, take the kids out, because if it is 11, 12, 13, these young ages, you help them mingle with their friends or neighbors and let them talk. Or what is it at school? Usually introverts, it's very difficult also, because sometimes if they are bullied at school or threatened at school, also they do not share with the parents. But at least at home, creating certain confident environment and comfortable environment for the child, so they do share what's going on at the school. At least at home ground, they should feel comfortable to share and not to pass comments that you're always not talking, you're always this way, you're quiet, so nobody makes friends with you. These kind of comments should be avoided, because that increases their low self-worth at that point.
Yeah, that's another, that self-confidence and self-worth thing is also very important during this time period of our life, because this is the time of when we are building ourselves in every way. Yeah, definitely. So, and another thing is that it's not only for teenage kids. This problem is like for every one of us. We go through sometimes in our life of depression.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very high volume or intensity. Sometimes it's not. But itself, as a professional, that it's a kind of a killer. It's a pandemic in a true sense. All over the world is there. So if someone is going through this situation, and at the same time not at all he or she is not telling anything about that, okay, I'm facing this problem, I need help, but how to recognize that someone is going through that situation with some signs and that kind of symptoms or anything, to find out that,
Yes.
okay, my kid is going through depression, I need to help him or her. So what will be that?
This is actually very important, that to notice the signs and symptoms, and it would be helpful if many of the parents would have a look out for these kind of symptoms for their children. Because depression, yes, many kids go through, many adults also go through, but they wouldn't know what is it, what they are going through, because it comes very slowly from behind the back, and it seems like normal, like a dull phase. So we got to know, is it generally feeling sad, dull, or grief, or is it depression? So usually we do say that according to DSM, our statistical manual, we do say that more than 2 weeks of feeling low, sad, like, loss of appetite, loss of interest in any of the favorite activities or hobbies. If you consider children, they would have their own favorite activities, like their TV shows, or their own play things, or art craft work that they do, the favorite foods they would ask for, generally, the pizzas or something. These kind of things would be missing in the children. You know, when you take them out, instead we'd ask, what do you want? Their answer would be nothing. I'm okay. I don't want anything. And they're grumpy. And then the parents are like, you have always been like this. But these are certain symptoms that we got to notice, which is like, feeling low, lots of appetite. There is a lot of difference in their sleep schedule. And there is loss of interest in their favorite activities, in academics. They wouldn't show any interest in social gatherings also. It can be family, it can be with the friends. Their interest would be going down. It would be like they would be always, if we see it's going from mild to moderate level also, they would like to lock themselves up in the room, sleeping for hours together, waking up at odd times, eating either too much one day or not eating at all the next day. There is a lot of difference in their appetite too. These are certain things that parents could be noticing. And when it goes to severe levels, it could be suicidal thoughts, attempts, talking about death, these kind of things. When kids talk, like, what would happen if I die? What would you do if you lose me? So, and asking what will happen when someone dies? What happens when someone commits suicide? These kind of questions, when the kids are asking, randomly the parents shouldn't say. Most often parents say that, don't talk those kind of things. Don't talk those kind of things. But I would say step back and think for a second, what's making the child think. It could be for knowledge. It could be for knowledge to think what happens in suicide or what, because they have come from a level of childhood. They don't know that suicides and all that below 10 years. So they are in between now. They'd be observing things from news, from social media and everything. So they do get an idea of what's going on. So when they're asking these questions, it's time for parents to react, respond and answer. But yes, certain times, if any attempts are being made silently, also parents should make a note of it. Are they, most often we do see teenagers cutting their wrists or something to, see if they have made an attempt of that way and they're covering it up. To be present, like I always say, be present with the child. So, and then it's time to take help of a mental health professional, either a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or take them to the school counselor, because they are readily available in the school.
Okay. So depression itself, it should have a reason, or the term clinical depression, what it represents. The clinical depression is anything, it can come without a reason, or so what is that clinical depression means?
So clinical depression means, like I said, once it is about 2 weeks and has been diagnosed after conducting the proper test by mental health professional. We do have a test which we conduct to analyze and to check on the depression scales, how they are falling. If they are falling under the moderate to severe level, we tend to use the term clinical depression, and they most probably will be suggesting some medication and psychotherapy for them. And depression, because it is like commonly used term, even if it's in mild levels, like you're feeling down for 1 to 2 weeks also, we tend to use that term. So it is that. And without reason, see, all the mental health illnesses do occur for 3 reasons. It could be genetic, hereditary, that your family members are having depression and you get it. It could be the hormonal transmitter differences, production differences, hormonal ups and downs in the body. It could be the socio-cultural, the environmental factors that are affecting. If you are in a family where you've been abused, there is parental divorce or fights going on, or there could be death in the family, poverty, and social pressures, peer pressures, being abused, bullied at school. These kind of things do cause depression. Without any reason it occurring is very less chance of that occurring. There is always a factor for that occurring. So we got to know what is it. Why did it trigger? If it's a hereditary factor also, at certain age, if it's triggering, we got to know it does trigger with some incident happening. So we have to notice what has happened in the child, what has happened with the school in the child, that, he has or she has been going through this depression.
Okay.
So take them to a doctor.
So mostly there should be some reason behind a depression.
Most probably there should be. There
yeah.
There would be, unless it is hereditary, and there is, like I said, if there is a neurotransmitter production is up and down, or the hormonal up and down, those are the biological factors. When the biological factors are missing, then it would be that reason. Though we say that you have everything and everything is going on normal, the child is going through this or an adult is going through this, it could be a biological reason too.
Okay, okay, great. So, and you have mentioned already earlier also that the pressure, that social and academic pressure that child having, sometimes pressure is coming from the family, sometimes the child is taking the pressure him or herself. So here again, the treatment is same like behaving like a friend or try to know them, that why they're taking so much pressure.
See, the pressure is of two types. One is positive pressure, peer pressure, and negative. The positive pressure always, it's like it will act as a motivation. Okay, when
Yeah,
you're comparing it as a healthy competition, when you're comparing among your friends, and then you decide as a group that you have to pass this exam, you have to score well, you share the notes with each other, and then study well, and doubts if you have, you clarify and go forward. And parents also saying and setting the targets. Sometimes it is like even parents, certain parents, if they don't push too much, or some do push a lot. Okay, so certain times that medium amount of pressure is important from parents too, like a guiding force. Like in this kind of in this age what of children, it's like waking them up early, checking their notes, helping them how to study, giving them, offering snacks. These kind of things are the positive pressures, or positive motivation factors. Like you have exam today, you're doing well, this is it, okay, you want to study. This is like a guidance, and doing that is very important.
yeah.
When it comes to negative pressure, negative ones would be severe competition, or severe cutthroat competition from the schools and all. Like whoever is scoring top would be here. We do see in when they are like 17, 18, when they're going to +2 in intermediates and all, there's a cutthroat competition saying that you don't do well, you don't score this, you're going to go into the next batch or something, or you're not going to pass, or they have their gradings and systems there. They take too much of pressure. Even at home, the parents saying that we have a lot of expectations from you and you didn't do well, we have spent so much on you and you have to achieve, your brother is achieving or your sister is doing and you're not doing, the neighbors are doing, these kind of things. And taunts, what's wrong with you, you have everything but you're not doing. This is a negative pressure. This is negative. You don't know what the child is going through. Why is he taking so much pressure? Is he able to grasp everything? Not everybody can grasp all the information. Mostly if in academics, not everybody can take all subjects and then put it out well. The learning is a different process, right? The way you're learning is different, and how much ever you're going to express it out is going to be different. So then you blaming the child, this is again trauma. And once this negative academic pressure, though the children pass with the pressure, they carry all these traumatic experiences into their adulthood too.
Yes.
We do have seen people with high jobs and good positions in software companies, or being doctors especially. They are in their PG, everything, but still they carry all the trauma that they have been gone through in their in their teenagers especially. What were the words that parents said at that time? What were the hurtful things that have happened? Though now they are okay, the parents are fine and they are proud of them, it is not okay for the children. We have seen, they do say it's not okay. Though they are good now, it's not okay what they have done to us at that point of time.
Yes.
The parents would say, because we pressurized you, you are a doctor now.
Yeah, most of the time.
We pressurized you, you are in a good software job now, and you're blaming us. And that's again a conflict of agreement between both of them. So the pressure shouldn't be too much, that at that point of time, though you're keeping the future in mind, at that point of time, what are you doing to the child? Is the child able to take it well or not? What's the point of them being a doctor or an engineer but not happy? They are doing the job, but then they're not happy. Them going through depression at that stage after having achieving everything, there is no point.
No meaning.
So that's what is, yes, that's what the parents should know, and know how much amount of pressure is okay for the child, because each child is different. How much is he able to take? When is he saying that it's not okay, I'm not able to do it, I cannot do it? If you're hearing that from the child, maybe that's the time you slow down a little bit.
So after that only my next question comes linked to this, that since last almost 20-25 years, the definition of success just have changed for us. It's what I see. It's all the time. It's like comparison with others. That person is having this much. I'm not having that much. Whatever is that, your professional way or personally. So that comparison is telling you you're successful or not. So as a parent, how to tell your child that what is the success, that word means. It's not only comparison. It's not that I have to have all the things that others are having.
I would say, what is success? I would ask, what is success? What is success means achieving a goal.
Yeah.
Whatever your goal you have, you achieved it. That is the definition, classic definition of success. So for parents, they should have the goals planned sitting along with the child. Okay, and then they should teach the child since childhood only that what is the goal making process, how do you make your own goals. Once those goals are achieved and then the child feels successful, and then you can reward the child too. So the goals should always be, we call in our psychology, is the SMART goals, SMART, SMART goals. They should be specific goals. What are those? Like, what is actually what you want at that age, from if it's you're calling from 11 to 15, what would be your goal from that, in that age, in that timeline? It should be specific goal. Okay, what is it that you want to achieve? Do you want to get number one rank, or do you want to score this much? Or do you want to, if it's arts or sports field, do you want to become a player in this kind of range team? What is it? That should be the specific goal. The goal should be a specific one always. After that also, what do you want to become? Do you want to become a chef? Do you want to become an engineer? Do you want to become a doctor? Or like, a specific one. It shouldn't be like you become successful, whatever you do, but you become successful. This is what we hear. But what is it? What is the goal? You define, you sit with a child, you discuss, you define it. Okay, this is it. And measurable one also. It shouldn't be like, you become a doctor, some aims head HOD.
Yeah, you should have your scores like your cousin, or this kind of comparison makes that child feel in a different way.
Yes. Yeah. So comparisons are always going to be difficult, comparisons, because the parents themselves don't know what they are looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I said, it should be attainable, realistic goals. If the SMART goals, the parents also have this sitting with the child, like, okay, these are the goals that we are going to achieve. This is what you're going to do for yourself. When you decide that, there wouldn't be a comparison factor, right? Because they do know that they have set a time frame for the child. In SMART, one is the time frame, that in this time frame you're going to achieve this, and this is what you want going to become, and we are going to support you, whatever is it. Is that okay for you? When you have it, when you have the goal plan, when you have the success plan, there is no point of you comparing with others. When they themselves don't know what they are looking out for, the comparisons do rise. They should know what their child is capable of. Is the child capable of becoming this? Is the child, some people randomly say, you have to become a doctor in AIIMS to a child in 12 years old. How would they know? That is like an immense pressure on the child. Is the child interested? Because their neighbor's son is or daughter is studying there, or someone has become an astronaut now, and all those things which they see in news, and they then, like, sometimes they compare. It is the parents' internal feeling too. Most of the time it is that too, because they themselves feel that they have not achieved their goals, and they think that now, because they put it as a reason that we did not have the support at that time, we did not have the financial support at that time, or the teaching support at that time. Now we are giving you everything, so you achieve the goals which we didn't achieve. But it is not always the same way, right? So the one who have to study will study, even the resources are little also, because it's again the learning process which differs. So they have to understand that it's the child, his life or her life, and they get to decide the goals and the time frames, and it is okay for them to not think or aim too high. To some children do aim too high, some don't, so it's okay. And comparisons always be like a trauma to the child. They go through a very traumatic procedure if the comparison is too high, the insulting or the tauntings are too high, especially in families, no? Which again comes under the bullying part to verbal bullying, because you're taunting continuously on the child, which is traumatic for the child, and the self-esteem goes down. And again, self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence goes down, there is no point. The child might get depressed, anxious too.
Yes. How to be a friend at the same time, a guide, but without giving any pressure on the child. That being a friend means a very easygoing
Yes.
thing. Then when you're guiding someone, when we're giving advices, then it means a bit different. So at the same time, how to play all these roles together as a parent. What is your advice to the parents? How they will play all these roles together?
See, the parenting styles, often there are like 4 types of parenting styles, and we do advise authoritative parenting style for the parent if and choose for that kind of parenting style. See, one is authoritarian parenting style, which has its own negative effect where the parent is very strict and
Yeah.
has very much boundaries and rules and timings and sets that the child does not get a choice. He
Mhm.
doesn't have a chance or choice to pick their own clothes and what to eat
Yeah.
also.
Mhm.
This again is going to affect the child a lot.
Yeah.
There's again permissive parenting where the mom or the father is like, okay, you want to go out, go, you want to do this, do, you don't want to study, okay, okay,
Mhm.
complete permissive, that the child doesn't have any motivation from house front, that nothing to do, it's okay, you don't do the homework, it's okay, the teacher is saying something, yeah, it's okay, yeah, it's okay. So that is a permissive parenting,
Mhm.
and both have the lot of self-esteem, self issues, and then the social cultural issues the child will have. A lot of them, the child is going to have equal amount of anxiety issues with these two kind of parenting.
Yeah.
And then comes authoritative parenting, which we suggest, which is between both.
Okay.
So you do have rules, but at the same time you do have the affection and the responsiveness too. We
Mhm.
do say you have your own set of rules at the house that this is okay to do. But
Mhm.
when you're not doing it, you reason why. You
Okay.
say if you're going out, you come back at 8 o'clock
Mhm.
because this is the dinner time and you're going. When they're like, this is 8 o'clock, you didn't come, so you're not going to go next time. No, why?
Mhm.
What was the reason?
Yes.
Was it like couldn't the child avoid it? So
Mhm.
next time if he or she does that, there would be consequences of not going out or consequences of lesser TV time. So it's like
Mhm.
you have to have a positive reinforcement. Again, at the same time, if they're doing well, they should get a positive reinforcement, they should be rewarded. But if they are doing something unacceptable, there
Mhm.
should be consequences also for that. So you're going to mix it both. It
Okay.
shouldn't be that you're completely strict or not too friendly. When you're too friendly also, the
Mhm.
child wouldn't know what to do.
Yes.
The child wouldn't know. If we are leaving a child not to study full day, what would they do? If you are
Mhm.
leaving now, it's like with online or anything, most of the children these days are not going to school. So what would they do? They wouldn't know what's the guidelines, what's the motivation, what to do. There is no goal.
Mhm.
So the child gets confused because they need help and support.
Mhm.
Too much strict, the child also thinks that they feel suffocated, that why can't I choose what to wear, why can't I choose what to eat, why can't I choose what to study, why can't I choose to go to my friend's house
Mhm.
1 hour extra, why should I cry after coming home, why should I be punished so much, why can't I see a cartoon show for 15 minutes? So, or full day you're lying down and watching TV and the parents are okay because we have to be friends, that will also have negative consequences. So
Mhm.
you be both together. You try to control the child completely, it is difficult, and you're letting them loose,
That's
then there
all.
is no hope. So
Mhm.
you have them in your hand and take care of them. At the same time, give the guidelines that these are the things you got to do. These are your goals. This is your homework chart, or these are the activities that you're supposed to do. We will support you. But when you're not feeling okay, you're feeling emotionally down, and you're feeling that there is something you want to get to our notice, we wouldn't overreact. We wouldn't judge you. We'll be supportive. We will listen. If you need help, we will get that help for you. So if that's comfortable, then the child would reach out to the parents. Most often these things don't happen, that nobody is there to listen, they go to depression, they
Yes.
don't know whom to go to help for,
Mhm.
then they feel like they're running away from the house, or killing themselves. These kind of things do happen in these ages because they don't know what to do. For them it's like escaping would be easy and safe, they feel.
Yes.
So we would always say, be present, be there with your child and support the child.
Mhm. So throughout your practicing years, what else you have dealt with? what anything else that they're facing in their life, teenagers especially? Yeah.
We did deal with a lot of depression and anxiety because of issues in the families that the child is not being taken care of,
Mhm.
and because of some kind of trauma, some kind of death in the family, that nobody has dealt with the child later, no one has handled the emotions of the child. And
Mhm.
then children with learning difficulties, learning disabilities,
Mhm.
whatever you take, those learning disabilities like dyscalculia, dyslexia, or whatever, and them not able to, parents not diagnosing them or taking help of any professional to diagnose them, and but still forcing the child to study a lot. And you
Mhm.
know then the child cannot study. We do have seen movies like Tare Zameen Par, and all those are like the real incidents that do occur
Yeah.
actually. So
Mhm.
we dealt with a lot of it, like to guide the parents, saying that this is it your child can do,
Mhm.
and there is nothing more they can do, and they are not responsible for that.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. It's not purposefully that they are not studying. They are
Mhm.
not able to study, and it's not their fault. It's a neurodevelopmental issue that
Mhm.
has occurred, and there is only we can provide support to that, like to help them study, but we cannot force them too much. So these kind of the issues are lot we see, but most often we do see depression and anxiety in these ages, a lot of it.
So when they come to you for consultation, though they are cooperative, these children, or what they cooperate with you through your,
They
uh,
do.
yeah, they do. Okay, okay.
They do, and maybe if they are being forced by their family for therapy because they think that they have behavioral issues, or they have so they're not studying, those kind of children, they will take time to cooperate. But if they are depression, anxiety, and they have asked for help, and parents have gotten them, they do, so those things do happen, like parents do themselves enroll the children for therapy. They do respond well, and family also supports them in their activities, whatever they are doing, behavioral activation, if you are encouraging their habits, hobbies, and everything.
Mhm.
These kind of children cope really really quickly. When the support of family is there for therapy, those children, not only children, even adults also, when there is a support of family or friends, when they are going through depression or any mental health illness, when there is a support, they tend to cope very quickly, because there is no complete cure for it. It's like, it's you take a tablet or you do this, it won't come again. It's not like that. It can just be treated and managed. Any mental health illness, we can only treat them and manage them.
Mhm.
So yes, when with therapy, with medication, they do come down, they get their stability, so they can perform their own functions of daily functions well. But when they have a good family support, they tend to recover very quickly than expected.
Okay. So, have you treated any child who is arrogant? After depression, child is keeping themselves away from the family or something. But a child when he's arrogant, so how to deal with the arrogant child when this is
Okay. With depression, or just an arrogant child you're
just
talking about?
arrogance and both way, both way.
Okay.
If a
Okay.
depressed and an arrogant child, and separately arrogant child.
Okay. With depression and arrogancy, because they are depressed, they do get angry that they are feeling hurt and nobody is understanding. So that is one of the reasons for them to push people away. They themselves realizing that they are not in control of their emotions, and they might hurt people whom they like. It could be two ways. So they would distance from people, and they would yell and shout at people. This is irritability, and anger is one of the symptoms of depression. So once you start the therapy for depression, so these things would come down too. So that is one thing. And generally, an arrogant child is, we should see in two or three settings, why is he behaving like that. When I say two or three settings, it could be at home, it could be a friend's house, or grandparents house, or in his own house. In all these settings, is the child behaving arrogantly, then it could be a behavioral issue, and we have to work on it. Or only at one place he's behaving that, so what's going on there? We have to sit there, we explore a lot, and then we come out to there, we pinpoint that this could be the reason what's going on. So most often kids do say that nobody cares. When we dealt with arrogant children, angry children, usually we say anger issue children, they do say that nobody cares. everybody is busy, parents are busy in their own world, and if they ask and then they say we are giving you everything and then you're not studying, this is one issue that comes up.
Mhm.
Or parents, like, being too strict, and when their friends are enjoying, but they are sitting with their books, tuitions, these things, these makes the child irritable little bit.
Mhm.
Or there could be something else, comparing, or friends making fun of them. Body image issues are they
Yeah.
having? Usually
Mhm.
when they have that body image issues and all they have, like the social media issues these days, that has become very common. When these things happen, the arrogance or anger comes out, not only with children, even with us. It's the
Yeah.
same, right? Why do we get angry? Why do we feel upset, or cranky? Why
Mhm.
do we behave? Because there is a reason to that.
Reason behind that. Yeah.
Same with the children, we have to understand why is it going. We cannot, because they are children, we cannot just ask them to shut up or behave normally. If
Yeah.
someone asks that to same thing to us, can we behave? No, maybe for a photo we might smile, but we cannot do it. So same
Mhm.
with the children.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And well, someone is underconfident. He's not not at all self-confident, and other person is overconfident. Is there anything like overconfidence? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Like overconfident is like feeling completely confident. It could be, you are taught or brought up or pampered that way at home,
Mhm.
saying that you are ideal and you can achieve anything. Sometimes overconfidence is okay, helpful at some places academically or something, but when the behavior is also changing along with the
Yes.
overconfidence,
Yes. That is the
that's
thing I'm
when,
saying. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's when we gotta check on it, why the child is behaving that way. Some
Hmm.
kids, when you give an exam paper or something, they do sit and write and then they give it, feeling that they can do it. But it's like if you're throwing the paper saying, oh, what is this? There's
Yeah.
nothing. This is
That's
very
it.
simple, and you're all crying for this. That's when we got to check, why is the child behaving
Yeah.
that way?
Mhm.
Who is enforcing the child to behave that way? What's going on there at
Mhm.
home or at school? Or why is the child feeling that way? Because without all those any socio-cultural issues, they don't behave. So
Yeah.
something somewhere somebody should be pampering him, or at the school, or him himself feeling that the others are normal and they don't know, and he himself is being. Sometimes the IQ levels are high. Actually, the IQ levels are high in some children.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
did they pick up on that their intelligence levels are high and they're acting about it and they're comparing themselves with their children with others? Then again, their behavior management can be done, like behavioral therapy for them to calm them down a little bit. Not too much calming them down, like to hurt their self confidence, but yes, to set their behavior as such.
Okay, so lots of things we got to know from you, Soumya. So anything else you want to add up?
All I would add up is, like I said, till now, parents to be there, to be present, to
Hmm.
watch out for their children, notice the signs. Are they comparing themselves a lot academically or, socially with their friends, is what we got to look out for, because these days the social media has gone too high. Now they compare themselves to their friends' pictures, their friends'
Yeah, that's
likes
another
and all
issue.
the
Yeah.
comments
Mhm.
and all. So that's
It's not
also
with not
distressing.
with the kids. It's for elders also.
Yes, but in 18, 19, that ages for them, that's the world. They don't know the reality, right? They are
Yeah.
seeing and comparing to people or children whom they haven't seen at all till now.
Yeah.
Like, and there are a lot of filters coming up too, which is like they see their picture after editing and the real picture in this mirror. We do have encountered these cases
Mhm.
saying, why am I not looking as perfect as the filter, as the in the Beauty Plus app or those apps that come up, or Instagram filters? Why am I not looking as pretty as that? My real face is so bad. So I
Mhm.
don't want to go to meet friends outside. I'll meet only virtually. I'll only
Yeah.
send pictures. They don't want to
Mhm.
go out. If they want to go out, they want something to be done to their face. And these emotions, again, they feel that they are fat or thin comparingly. So that's when eating disorders also come up,
Mhm.
anorexia or bulimia, that they eat, or if they
So
eat,
these
they
are these
compensate
are
with behavior.
these are happening to boys and girls both, or majorly in girls?
Majorly the eating disorders and the peer pressures of body image issues, we do notice a lot in girls especially.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
In girls we do see all this bullying and all those cases. We do see a lot of those trauma in boys, but
Mhm.
eating disorders most often worldwide we have seen that in girls only, like, dieting too much, or like, eating it and then compensatory behavior, like exercising too much or vomiting whatever they are eating, these kind of things, the parents have to notice if the children are doing that. They tend to do it, but often we think that, maybe she's eaten outside food and then she's throwing up, these kind of things. But we have to make a note of these things and observe if this is what is going on. If the child is suffering from some mental health issue, is what the parents have to look out for.
Okay. So that was really wonderful, wonderful talking to you, Soumya. And thanks a lot for giving this time. So, yes. So I hope we'll meet again. We'll have another session also afterwards.
Sure.
So
Thank you for having me, Bernali. It was very nice.
anytime,
All the
anytime,
questions you have
anytime.
covered up most of the topics for the teenagers, actually.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of more questions also. If we get a chance to have another session later on, we'll also include those questions. So yes,
Sure.
you are having some session for free sessions. You want to tell about that?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Now, with my team members, I am conducting a free counseling drive from 10th to 15th of July. It's a 1 hour free video calling session. It could be Zoom session or WhatsApp video call or Google Meet, whichever the clients are comfortable with. Someone who's going through grief or any issues that they want to talk out, but they don't know how therapy sounds like or what happens, or it's a small minor issue that they want to talk about, also all are free to register and then take the 1 hour session, avail our services.
Wonderful.
We are a free team of 4 people. So yeah.
Okay, then I'll put the link of your session in the description.
Thank you.
So thanks a lot again for coming here, and have a wonderful life ahead, wonderful experiences. That you have to come again, and you have to share your experience here again.
Sure.
Okay then.
Sure. Thank you, Manali.
Yeah.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Same here. Bye-bye.